You're listening to The Power Project, and I'm your host, Brandy Vogt. It's my goal each week to inspire and empower you with stories of women that are leading purpose-filled lives and owning their God-given power. I am so excited for you to hear from my guest today. I have secretly been stalking her on Instagram. I have checked out all of her amazing products that she has. She is a boss babe that is not only running a social enterprise, but she is restoring the lives of those that have been exploited, as well as hanging out with her two babies at home, Rosie and Justice, and her favorite place to be is the front porch of her 1920s home. She loves speaking and advocating for the marginalized, and I know that you all are going to be inspired today. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Power Project podcast. My guest today is a hustling mama that is doing all the things. You guys, if you saw the bio of my guest today, you would want to know, A, does she ever sleep? And B, how does she look so gorgeous doing everything that she's doing? Melissa Ice is with us today. And you guys, she has been named the 25 Women to Watch by Women in Business Networking. She has been on Fort Worth Businesses Press 40 Under 40. And she's also Fort Worth Magazine Editor's Choice for Best Philanthropist in 2018. She is a woman after my own heart. She's got the business, she's got the passion, she's got the purpose, and she is putting it all into play. So, hey, Melissa, how are you?
Hi, Brandy. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Are you kidding? I'm so stoked to have you on this show today because you are a woman after my own heart. And Melissa and I were chatting in the pre-show when we were kind of getting to know each other because you know how social media is. Like you can follow people, but getting to speak with someone is a totally different gift. And I first learned about Melissa's company, The Worthy Co., because my friend Charla had worn a t-shirt that I thought was absolutely adorable. And she had tagged me on Instagram to check out this company. And I was like, the more I knew, the more I had to get Melissa on this show. So Melissa, can you tell us all the things that you are doing right now with the Net and the Worthy Co. and give us a little backstory on that.
Yeah. So I have been married for 11 years to my husband, Jamie, and we have two little girls, Rosie, who's our 3-year-old, and Justice, who joined our family through adoption over this summer. So she's almost 9 months old. And I would say when I moved to Fort Worth, which is where I live in Texas, about 10 years ago, I was hired onto a church to be the missional director. And so basically my role was to help people serve locally here with different nonprofits and then to serve globally through different mission trips that I was leading to Guatemala and to China and Thailand and some other places. And so that kind of took me on a journey of just volunteering quite a bit, and which was totally my heartbeat, which is why I loved that I got the opportunity to work as a missional director on staff at a church, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, help people serve other people, sign me up. I'd love to do that. Because that kind of defined a lot of my 20s and just things that I was passionate about before that. And through doing that, myself and a group of students through a local private college here, it's called Texas Christian University. Myself and some TCU students were serving the homeless, just building relationships with them and realizing that the people that we were serving actually had way more to offer us than what maybe we had given them credit for based on our background in serving and just the culture of growing up, what it looks like to serve, and just realizing that we might have had a few things wrong to get on the get. And really what we should be doing is just learning more about them and having a posture of learner and student and trying to understand them more. And so as we were doing that, it just kind of changed the way that we were doing everything. At one point we had a big blanket drive and we're going to donate a bunch of blankets, and just encouraged us, hey, don't give away the blankets. Instead, just go and ask everyone their name and their story. And so it was little things like that started to shape the way that we were serving. And so it just made sense when that was happening for a couple of years for it to kind of evolve into its own nonprofit, which it did. And the church that I was working at the time was super supportive of that endeavor. And then we've just grown a lot since then. We also have an after-school program for refugee kids that we've been doing for a while. And then in 2012 is when we started working with women and girls who are victims of sexual exploitation. And we partnered with a specialty court here in Fort Worth, and a judge who had a court program that was basically a really rehabilitation and recovery program for women who are have a background in trafficking and exploitation, and generally had some sort of prostitution charge on the record and were facing jail or prison time. And so we got to partner with them in just providing mentors for all the women, and then also providing social and recreational events every month. So we do everything every month, from like chili cook-offs to pool parties. This past Saturday, we took a group of women bowling, and basically we're just trying to invite them into healthier memories and give them opportunities to do things and have community with other women in the community who care about them. And so that's what we've been doing since 2012. And we were actually walking alongside the women, which is, as you know, Brandy, just a long, arduous process. There's a lot of trauma, a lot of pain and healing involved. And so for them, they're having to work really hard. A lot of them struggle with substance addiction. And so, they're getting help there. They're going to trauma therapy. They're reuniting with their families and their kids. They're making restitution with the courts. And then we were seeing them graduate from our program and still come out of that program with no economic freedom because they couldn't find a job. And that just became a struggle for us, an ongoing struggle, that we would find these women that we were walking alongside who were really reclaiming their lives and doing everything they could to turn their life around. And then they couldn't get a good job, and they couldn't. So the women weren't really able to have a sustainable income. And without income, as we know, you can't provide for yourself. You can't provide for your children, your family. And so that's where the idea of Worthy Co. was birthed. Myself and my team, we were just realizing that we wanted to make sure that these women were transformed for the long haul, that for the rest of their lives, they never had to go back to being exploited. They never had to go back to life on the streets just to survive or make ends meet. And so it kind of started with us just meeting every week. And I have an amazing team who did some R&D and said, hey, let's figure out how to make candles. And so that's what they did. And they taught our women to make candles. And we were doing that inside of a classroom that we were borrowing from a church for the last 18 months. And then just realized that we were only able to provide a handful of women with jobs, and we were only able to provide them with a handful of hours, because what we were doing was kind of more of a job training program. And it was just once a week for a few hours. And the income that they were getting from our organization was just supplemental at best. And we just kind of buckled down and decided, we want these women to make a living wage and a living hour, and we're not there yet, but what can we do to get there? And so we decided to turn the Worthy Co. basically to its own entity, although it's still a nonprofit and it's underneath our nonprofit, The Net. And so we just recently launched that. And we are in the throes of retail and candle making and jewelry making and all those things, which we weren't anticipating, but we are super excited because Worthy Co. has been really accomplishing our mission, which is to just empower women survivors of trafficking.
Oh, you were speaking all of my love languages today. So it's like a mouthful too.
Oh,
but I love it. And I love when someone's passion shines through, when they, you're not just going through the actions of, checking off your bullet points. Like, you're passionate about what you're doing, and that shines through. And I love that. So I personally know exactly 100% what you are speaking to. And I think that for someone on the outside, it's so difficult to wrap your brain around, because you think, okay, here are women that, they've had horrible trauma throughout their life and a horrible abuse, and they haven't had healthy relationships and healthy socializations. And so you bring them alongside of you and you give them Jesus and you pour into them and you love them, and they're, on cloud nine, and they graduate the program. And then they're hit with like the brutal honesty, of life, of everyday life. And what do I do? And how do I earn a living? How do I have something that attaches me to purpose? And so I personally, anyone with a social enterprise is my kind of people. And, because literally I've sat with the director of one of the homes that I volunteer in. And I've said, look, we have got to find a way for the graduates to be attached to purpose, because otherwise they just fall into this cycle where, I can't have them working at 7-Eleven and McDonald's and stay focused on their value and their worth. That's great as a stepping stone and gainable income, right? But
right.
It has to be something bigger. It has to be with people that are mentoring and speaking into them. So well done on what you are doing. And so how many...
I think that you're saying that because something that I was thinking is, as those of us who are in the anti-trafficking movement, we're always trying to bring awareness around the dehumanization of, women, men, girls, boys who are involved in trafficking and being exploited. And there has to be a cultural shift there where as a society, we're saying, okay, we're not going to let this happen to our children, or we're not going to let this happen to the most vulnerable women in our city. And at the same time, what we're realizing as an organization that's been around for a while is we've worked really hard on that side, but we also need the community at large to say, and we're not going to let them go back to the streets, or we're not going to be the type of business that is so bottom line that we look the other way when there are people around us who shouldn't be overlooked, who are vulnerable, who are marginalized and oppressed. And at the same time, we're just trying to, make a dollar. And so I feel like it's so important, even what you're saying, just for the organizations that are on the boots on the ground, that they're able to kind of speak up and say, hey, there's some hard legwork that needs to be done on the front end so that we can just prevent this from happening, because it's so horrific and it shouldn't happen to anyone. And at the same time, on the back end, what can we do as a community to change the way that those women or those children thrive as human beings? And I think some of it is lending our privilege and our power to people who wouldn't have it otherwise. So I love that you're saying that.
Oh, 100%. And that's, I tell everyone, okay, I love that awareness is spreading about human trafficking. And I love that there are more nonprofits being formed. And I love that there are people passionate about the cause. And it's like, we've gone through the evolution in the US of seeing everyone found out that, okay, first, this is a problem and it's happening. So then the next step was we had frontline ministries that ran out to go rescue the girls and boys. Mm-hmm. And then it was, okay, we have a relationship with these girls. Now we need somewhere to put them. So then you had crisis centers and shelters pop up. And then it was, we need something long-term. And then we got to the aftercare sector. And then now we're in I call it the aftercare.
Yes, exactly.
And it looks, and it's a holistic approach of business and purpose and mentorship. And it truly 100% looks like someone walking through life with this person. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious, how many survivors do you have in your program at one time? And then also, how many survivors are you able to employ now?
Yeah. So we, at any given time, we have anywhere between 30 and 40 women in our program at all times. The program is a 2 to 5 year program. It's a longer program compared to other ones. That I'm sure you know this, but every year it was a 2 year program. Then it became a 3 year program, then a 4 year program, and then a 5 year. Yeah. Because just for some people, there's not a one size fits all solution to this problem. And, some of the women that we work with are fortunate enough to, despite their time of being exploited or being on the streets, actually come from a healthy family and have a good support system. And so their recovery time may look different than someone who has been in and out of foster care their whole life, or has been experiencing childhood sexual abuse since they were too little to remember. And so the extent of trauma and all of that plays a role into how someone is able to, quote unquote, recover from this life. And so that's why the program is kind of an extended, it's a there's a range because different people graduate at different times. And then, we have 30 to 40 women in the program at any given time. And up to this point, Worthy Co has employed 10 women in our program. And we've learned a lot as any, whether you're a small business or early stages of nonprofit. For us, we're kind of like a mix of both because we've been doing the nonprofit thing for a while, but now we're doing a small business sort of, but it's still a nonprofit because it has this social impact piece, and that's a whole other beast. And so we've just learned a lot in the last year and a half of some do's and don'ts, as everyone in a startup of anything does. And so right now, what we've landed on and what we feel real confident in is just having a few number of women working for us with the goal of providing them with more hours. And I will say that was hard to do early on. I think something that we wanted to do was we want more women. We want to say we're employing 20 women or whatever the number would be that we feel like would feel flashy and shiny so that people would pay attention to us. And sometimes doing that isn't necessarily the most beneficial thing for the people that you're serving. And in order to provide employment for more women, one of the things we committed to early on was, we are going to take the few women who have been employed with us for a while, and anytime there's another opportunity or more hours, we're going to give them to them as much as we can, just to be able to increase that living hour that I was talking about, because that's just so important. One of the things that we saw over and over again with the women, anytime they worked at, maybe a fast food establishment or something, without a moment's notice, all their hours could get cut. And now they can't make rent. Now they can't make ends meet. And we wanted to be something that was not just a safe and dignified work environment, but also something that's reliable and steady, just to provide them with some stability. So we have a smaller number of women working. And then, of course, whenever we open our retail store and production space, we'll have to increase the amount of women that are working, because now we'll have positions in the retail store, we'll have positions in shipping and fulfillment, and we'll definitely have to hire more when that time comes. But for now, we just have a handful of women that we employ, and one of which who makes all of our candles. So anytime someone buys the candles, it's all hand poured by one woman, and then all of our jewelry is made by another woman. And so she's our jewelry artisan, and the other one we say is our chief candle maker. Yeah.
How fun. Okay. So maybe it wasn't a t-shirt that she tagged me in. Maybe it was earrings. I don't know what it was that I saw that caught my eye with you.
I think Charla had on our She Is Worthy shirt.
Yes.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah. I need a She Is Worthy shirt. Where can I go to find one?
Yeah. You can go to our Worthy Co website.
All right. So in the show notes, I will put everywhere that we can get our hands on these goods and these products that are serving these women.
This episode is brought to you by Brandy Voth Beauty. Have you tried the #1 skincare brand in all of North America? Well, if not, today is your day. Head over to the-powerproject.com, click on Powerful Beauty, and take a 30-second skincare consultation to see what products are recommended for your skin concerns. Email yourself those results, and then I will personally mail you a thank you gift for your time. That's thepowerproject.com, Powerful Beauty.
I love that you spoke to the fact that, and I think this is an important point to note for people listening at home that are just getting started, because we want to save them all. We want to save them all. We want to employ them all. We want to walk with them all. I get it. But yes. I think it is important to note that you can better serve 10 women with 40 guaranteed hours a week versus 40 women with 10 hours a week. I think that is a really wise choice on your behalf. Very intuitive to know how you're best serving these women. So thank you for noting that. And if you're new at home and you're thinking about getting started in a social enterprise, definitely take notes from this gal, because she has done it absolutely correct. And I didn't say perfect. I just said correct.
Yes. And we've really learned a lot from, I would say too, if anyone's even thinking about doing something like this, something that has been really advantageous to us is we just learn from other social enterprises around us. And so we're lucky that in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's a handful that we've been able to sit down with. And some, who are busy. And so we're like, can we just follow you around while you do something for like 15 minutes and ask you 4 questions? And other ones where, for instance, there's one in Nashville called Thistle Farms where we're like, we'll just fly there. And if we show up, will you have a meeting with us? And people have been really kind and generous just to give us advice and wisdom and some things that they've learned along the way. And we have an advisory board of people who are experts in certain things, and we just lean on people a lot. And I would say that's would be my biggest advice to anyone just even thinking about doing anything is there's no reason why we should do this alone. There are people out there who have like-minded hearts, like-minded vision, missions. Even my basically my co-director, her name's Sarah. She's our director of operations. I just prayed for her for years before she was before she joined the net, before she became anything as far as coming on staff. And I just was asking God. I just basically told God, I'm like, I don't want to do this alone. A lot of people in the Bible, you sent them out 2 by 2, right? They weren't alone. So can you please send me a partner? Because there's some things I'm really not good at. And I need someone who's better at things than I am to help me make this a reality. And God, of course, is just so kind because he's brought amazing people along the way who make you look better than what you are. It's like social media, the world of the squares. You're like, oh, they do everything. And it's like behind every good square or post is, for me at least, 1 million people holding me up who I could not do anything without.
And that is so incredibly important. I think you just gave away so many like nuggets right there. And I think the first one is the fact that there are people that have gone before us and whatever it is, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're feeling a call on your heart about, there is someone who has done it and done it big and done it great, and reach out to those people. Like, I think people oftentimes it's the scarcity mentality, right? It's the, like, I can't do that because Soul Farms in Nashville is already doing that, right?
Right.
But when you adapt the mentality that you realize that we are all better together and we can all come alongside of each other and learn from each other. And I'm sure that, there are things that you learn from Soul Farms, and then there are things that you're going to be able to teach someone else that you've excelled at in your journey. So it's so important. It's so important to follow the people that God places there for you, to learn from them. With people that I interview, they typically almost always have that one moment that they know that they said yes to God, and went ahead and took that leap of faith, or they have that one factor that they knew that it took for them to say yes. Do you have like one maybe defining moment when you realized, okay, and maybe it was when you were handing blankets out, to the homeless on the streets, but just that one moment when you knew, I'm going all in and this is going to be bigger than me?
Yeah, I would say so. Rewinding back to the story where I was on staff at a church and myself and some students were serving the homeless. Prior to that, I'm originally from Dallas. My husband's from Fort Worth. And, if you're in Texas, that they're just 2 major cities that are about 30 miles apart, but they're very different culturally. If you go to one, Dallas is maybe a little more metropolitan or whatever. And Fort Worth, although it's changed quite a bit, I just felt like it was a smaller feel than what I was used to from being from Dallas, a big city, even though now that I've been here for 10 years, I realize, it's actually a really big city. People are just super friendly. So during that, my husband was like, hey, I feel like I'm supposed to be in Fort Worth. And at the time he was a full-time traveling musician in his own band, and the whole band was here. And I was getting offered this job at a church, and I was like, okay, God, you're clearly leading us to Fort Worth. But when I told Jamie, I was like, I will go there for a few years. I will give you a few years, and that's it. And then we're either going to move to somewhere like New York, which he was not keen on. I was like, okay, well, I would settle for Austin, which was another, big city, but not too far down the road. And at the time I had traveled quite a bit in my 20s. And so I definitely have like the wanderlust bug where I'm like, I just want to go and do. And there's like so many cities I want to live in. And so I'm like, let's just start with Austin and go from there. And so during that time, myself and those students, we were serving the homeless, and we started a breakfast called Bingo and Bagels, where every Friday morning we would do that exact thing. We would eat bagels, drink coffee, learn people's stories, and we would play a couple of rounds of Bingo, and people would win Walmart gift cards. And it was just this really simple thing, but it was a really beautiful meal that I was sharing with people, like the most unlikely of people. And I remember there were times I was sitting around that table thinking, how could I ever move to Austin when these people don't live in Austin? And the people that I was becoming friends with, a guy named Kendall and another guy named Corey, I was thinking, if I move to Austin, Corey's not in Austin, Kendall's not in Austin. These are my homeless friends that I made at that time. And I just remember God really shifting my heart and using relationships with people in the streets to say, I think you should be here and build roots here and do something great here. I have something great for you here. And it's not in Austin. And I think there's a lot of good things happening in Austin, but I'm not calling you to Austin. I'm calling you here to hang out with Kendall and Corey and some of these people. And I just remember at that time, I was thinking the only thing that could kill this travel bug dream in my heart, I'm like, of all the things in the whole world, God used my homeless friends to keep me in a city that I just didn't necessarily want to stay in. And so that was kind of a defining moment, because I was like, okay, God clearly has something happening for me here that I want to be a part of. And then with Worthy Co., I would say honestly, the net I felt like was something that God specifically told me to do. And with Worthy Co., it was something that I really wanted to happen. It was like a growing frustration, like I said, where we were like, oh, let's just make a product so we can give people jobs. Like, people need jobs. These women need jobs. And it was Sarah, who's on my staff and a board member. And the three of us took a trip to Nashville to visit Thistle Farms. And when we left that trip, they were both like, okay, we're doing this. Like, we are doing this. Like, we're making this happen. And I was terrified. And I was like, okay, you know what? If they think we can do it, we can do it. And that was another big, huge, risky, especially financially risky and taxing on our team. As a leader, to divert your energy, your resources, your finances in this one direction of starting a business, knowing that 90% of small businesses fail within the first 3 years, not to scare anyone, but, there's just some realities there that for me, I was like, we can't do this unless it's God. And clearly I've seen since then that it's been God. And so I would say for the first thing, it was God used relationships with street people to keep me in a city that I didn't think I wanted to be in. And for the second dream of Worthy Co., I feel like I sort of borrowed other people's vision that I was kind of scared to step into. But then once we said yes, I was like, okay, we're saying yes, so we're going to do it. And then I'm the type of person that I don't like doing anything halfway. I'm like, we're going to go all the way. If we're going to go down, we're going to go down with the cutest building and the best products and the best website, and we'll go down in flames, but at least it'll look cute.
Well, sister, I think that the only flames you're seeing is the heat of your business and your nonprofit and your passion. I think you're doing it right. I think it's beautiful. I am absolutely inspired by everything you've had to say today. And you've energized me. Like, I feel like maybe I need to get out there and do a little more than what I'm doing.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, you're doing a lot. And it's people like you, honestly, who provide encouragement for people like me. Just as, as I say, I tell God this, and I would tell anyone who would want to take me to coffee and say, okay, how do I start A, B, and C? I think my biggest mantra right now is just to not do it alone, because we can't. And I feel like the enemy, his goal is to isolate people. And I've seen him do a really good job of that, of people who are in poverty, just by oppressing them and marginalizing them and making them feel invisible. And so one of the goals of the net is to come alongside them and say, we see you. You are not alone. That's the message of the net. That's every event we have, every meal, we try to make people feel seen, known, and loved. And at the same time, when God invites us to do things with him, even then, it's not alone, it's with him. And so just having people around you makes a huge difference. It's like I can borrow encouragement from you and like your enthusiasm, and just knowing that there are people like you in other parts of the Metroplex who are laying down their lives, who have kids, who have jobs, who are really busy people, and yet they see the value in God's image bearers, and that just because this person is marginalized or oppressed doesn't mean they don't deserve to have someone come alongside them and say to them, I see you. And so even you doing that does that for me. And so thank you for what you're doing in the community. It really is encouraging.
Oh, you're amazing. You're sweet. And so let's tell people where they can find you, where they can get involved, where they can keep up with events, how they can support you, like all the plugs, give them to us.
Yes. So for people who just want to learn more about the net, our website is the net FW as in Fort Worth. So thenetfw.com. And then for folks who want to support Worthy Co. or maybe just get a candle for a friend's birthday party, knowing that it's hand poured and provides a job for a survivor, you can go to our website, which is worthy-co.com. And then also people can follow us on Instagram, and that's an easy way just to learn more about who we are and just our story, honestly, because I feel like our team tries to do a really good job of telling the story of what we're trying to accomplish. And so our Instagram handle for the net is just the net FW, and Worthy Co's is theworthy.co. And those are just some ways that people can follow along and learn more about what we're doing. And then I would say too, just right now we're in the process of, we just bought a building as a nonprofit. It's our first time to buy a building, and we're turning it into a retail space, as I mentioned. And the goal with that is obviously we want to have a place to have our products, but really we wanted to diversify the amount of skills that we could provide for women. And so, yes, we wanted them to hand pour candles and make jewelry, but we also wanted women that if they really like retail management, that we could help provide them with a job training ground to learn that, so that if they wanted to, they could go on into other areas of retail or even marketing or e-commerce and learn about that. Shipping and fulfillment, we wanted to have that as one of the opportunities that where we could provide jobs for women. And so in order to do all of that, we have bought a building that we're completely renovating. It's a dilapidated house that was about to fall to the ground and we're bringing it back to life. And so we just started the process of that. And we're raising a lot of money to be able to do that. But what's so cool is that I don't feel like in any way that we're doing it by ourselves, because the community has already rallied around us and said, yeah, if there's not a social enterprise retail store in Fort Worth, let's make one happen. And so that has been super encouraging for us. And so for anyone who wants to learn more about that, if they went to our website, thenetfw.com/just Worthy Co., or if they went under the What We Do tab and it says the Worthy Co., then you can learn more about our building campaign and the people who have contributed to that. And my last exciting thing for anyone who is local DFW, one of the things that we're doing is first candle making studio. And so basically, I don't know have you ever done painting with a twist? Where you can go like on a date or with girlfriends and you can go paint. Okay, well, that's what we will be providing, but it'll be a candle making class. And so you can sign up and go for a bachelorette party or, a girls' night out. And you can sign up for a class and you can go and make your own candle and pick out your own vessel and pick out your own scent and do the whole thing. And just doing it knowing 100% of the proceeds go back into supporting survivors of trafficking.
That is awesome. And now you've touched every single one of mine.
Yes. I'm like, who wants to make a candle with your girlfriends for fun, kid free? Yay.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. It has been an absolute delight chatting with you today. Thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Brandy. And thank you again, just for what you're doing and for highlighting just this area. I know it's something that you're passionate about, and it just really does take every single person in the community doing their part so that no women or children experience this anymore. And so thanks for what you're doing.
Absolutely, sister. You keep doing what you're doing too, and have a great day, okay?
Okay, thanks so much.
I love each week when I get to meet new people that inspire me even more than I possibly imagined being able to be inspired. That is exactly what Melissa has done for me. And we've already made plans to have lunch and do a little more brainstorming. You guys, these are the people that we need in our community, and these are the stories that need to be shared with your network. Speaking of, can I ask a solid? Would you please do me a favor? Go over to iTunes or whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on, write a review, share it with all of your friends, share it on social media, rate it, You guys, this is how I'm able to keep more of these inspiring stories coming into your speakers every week. But until then, I can't wait to talk to you next week.